my favorite hobby with one of my favorite people. It's Teri Hart, everyone. Oh, you can run in yours.
I mean, I can't.
Yeah, I mean, I saw a little trot.
I have much smaller space to go than you.
That was a long walk.
I've got like 6 steps in these and that's it.
Yeah,
You
know what, it's not even that, it's that they're like a tiny bit big and they're also a little slippery on the bottom, but anyways, the look is nice, right? You like it?
You know, also, the other thing is your feet grow. Why didn't anybody tell me that?
They just keep going.
They just keep going and they get wider.
Right.
So anyway, enough about
the
shoes.
bottom line is, we are getting to do something pretty cool because you are going to talk about the films that you love. I'm going to talk about the books that I love, and you kind of have like we're matching energies in terms of the vibe, right?
Yeah, I mean, I love talking about books with you because you are such a voracious reader. You know so much about books, and I wish that I loved reading as much as you do. But I love movies so much.
Yes.
Like that to me is, I'm a slow reader.
Yeah, and that's okay.
And so to me, it's like I have to set aside a different amount of time.
Yeah.
So I know some of your favorite books.
Yes.
And I'm like, I've got some movies that are not adaptations. We did not go the adaptation
We didn't go
route.
that way because I don't watch a lot of the adaptations, so
And
that
I
wasn't
get
going to
that.
work. Yeah.
And I get that.
Let the book be the book. That's me. I'm sort of old school like that. So I'm very excited to tell you about my very first one.
Okay.
It is Lullabies for Little Criminals by Heather O'Neill. Okay. I am a Heather O'Neill stan. She is one of my favorite Canadian writers of all time. If she's written it, I've read it. And this is the very first Heather O'Neill book I ever read. So let me just give you a sense. She's very good at writing about the gritty underbelly of Montreal. It always takes place in Quebec. It's usually in Montreal, and it's always gritty. The main character in this book is a girl named Baby. She's 13 years old. Her father is a heroin addict, and the neighborhood pimp is like trying to scope her out. She is on the precipice of such a scary time in her life. It sounds so sad and so dire. The only thing I think of when I think of this book is joy and hope and innocence and beauty. So Heather O'Neill does an amazing job of like juxtaposing this gritty, scary sort of environment with hope and love and beauty. And that's what I come away with. She does it in all of her books, but this one was the first, and it's the one that will stay with me forever. I suggest this book to everyone, Lullabies for Little Criminals by Heather O'Neill. It's a good one.
Okay, so
You're like, I see you on Lullabies for
and
Little
I'm going to
Criminals.
meet you at
Yes.
sad and possibly dire, but somehow still hopeful and somehow having a conversation. So Canadian actress Sarah Gadon is actually making her directorial debut adapting Lullabies for Little Criminals.
That's so good.
So yeah, she's spectacular.
Yeah.
So I went down a Sarah Gadon rabbit hole, and I'm choosing All My Puny Little Sorrows.
Oh my gosh, All My Puny Sorrows.
All My Puny
Miriam
Sorrows.
Taves.
Miriam Taves.
I love that book.
Yes.
It is sad.
It is sad. So it's
Yeah.
a story of 2 sisters, Sarah Gadon and Alison Pill. One of them is leading a life that's kind of sad and dealing with divorce and dealing with heartbreak. And the other is a world-renowned musician who is dealing with horrifying depression.
Yes.
And it is what these 2 sisters do, and this is sad. This is like bring your tissues sad.
Yeah.
But I thought
it works.
Kind of is in the world of what you were talking about with the Heather O'Neill book, and I love the fact that Sarah Gadon is adapting this book, so we can all look for that adaptation.
That's so cool.
Yeah,
it's like it's all full circle.
Full circle.
But yeah, no, Miriam Taves is a really, really good one.
And I love Canadian filmmakers adapting Canadian books.
Me too.
Yeah.
There's something really special about it. So let's talk about Canadian books. My next pick is 15 Dogs by Andre Alexis. First of all, Andre Alexis. Like when it comes to brilliant writers in this country, I don't know if anyone tops this dude. 2 gods walk into the wheat sheaf at King and Bathurst. This is literally how this book starts. Anyone who lives in Toronto knows the wheat sheaf. It's like the oldest bar in the city. It's Hermes and Apollo. And they're in the bar, they're drinking beer, and they're bored. And so they're looking around and they're like, oh my gosh, humans are so silly, are they not? So one of them decides, let's give a little bet. I bet you $1 million animals would be more happy if they had human attributes. And the other one says, no, I bet you animals would be more sad if they had human attributes. And they're like, all right, let's see who's right. So they stroll down the street to Shaw, and there's a veterinary clinic, and they go into the back to the kennel, and there's 15 dogs, and they give them anthropomorphic like skills. They give them the ability to think like a human. And what happens after that is just this incredible microcosm of human behavior. It takes place from Hyde Park all the way to the beach. These dogs all of a sudden start grappling with their internal violence. They understand condescension and being patronized by their owners. They feel guilty about things. They have all these existential crises. And so you see the tale all through the streets of Toronto, and I love reading. I'm from Toronto, I'm sorry I keep mentioning it, but I really love reading about books that take place here. This is one that everyone really needs to read.
Okay,
genius.
So
what do you got?
Where I went here, so that was published in 2015, and I went for a movie that was made in 2014. So grappling with the whole idea of sentient beings and what it means to have consciousness. Yeah. Mine is Ex Machina. And it doesn't deal with dogs, but it deals with robots. And it gave us Alicia Vikander, who has gone on to incredible things. Yeah. And it really is the idea around what you loved about 15 Dogs, is the idea of consciousness. Is being human all it's cracked up to be? Or are we saddled with some things that we could learn differently when we give those kind of thoughts and emotions to something that we don't think has them, like dogs, like a robot? And ultimately, here we are in 2024, all we're talking about is AI. And this is kind of what Andre was talking about with 15 Dogs, the idea of giving that to somebody else, and certainly that's what they're talking about in Ex Machina. So that's where I went for that one.
Well played, my girl.
Thanks,
well played. Okay, next up, and I know we're running out of time. I can hear you talking off camera. So can I do another book? Okay, thank you. Okay, this one is every single one I'm into, and I know you've read this one as well. This is Sula by Toni Morrison. Oh my gosh, this is my original copy. My notes are still in there from the 90s. Okay, I started teaching myself about Black history because there was none of it in my curriculum. And so I would say late teens, early 20s, I started reading sort of the African-American canon. And this book is about two best friends that are raised very differently. They're in a small town in Ohio. The white folks in the neighborhood are trying to gentrify it. They're going to turn it into a golf course. None of this mattered to me. What mattered to me is that Nell and Sula take such different paths. Nell, raised under respectability politics, follows the rules in her family. Sula follows her own rules.
Who did you identify with?
I wanted to be Sula. And she's controversial. She does very controversial things. She's not likable. And I liked the way that she stood up for who she was throughout this book, and she thrived and worked on her own rules. An incredible book. I think all young women should read this book.
Love that.
Yeah.
Okay, so where I went with this is female friendship. Yeah. Around the same time, 1920s, this is a movie called Passing. Oh, it stars, do you remember this one? It was only a couple of years ago. Yeah. Ruth Negga and Tessa Thompson star as two women, one who is passing as white. Yes. And the other who is married to a black doctor. Yeah. There are catastrophic things that happen in both of their lives because of their decisions. It deals with racism, it deals with colorism, and it deals with female friendships and the choices they make and how it impacts their lives, even though they still love each other, and how they question each other. It's spectacular. Both of those actresses deserved way more than they got for that movie. Yeah. Watch Passing.
I'll tell you this right now, in this discussion alone, you can see it. There is so much to be mined from film, as much as there is to be mined from books. Find your story and find your adventure and dive in. I love what you did there. Thank you, Ter. Really good. Okay, since we're talking about hobbies, give some love to Ter. She's so smart. We're talking about hobbies. So the latest addition to the Lego Super Mario theme for adults is a fun recreation of the iconic piranha plant from the Super Mario video games. Built from over 500 pieces, it allows you to build from the bottom up. So the piranha plant emerges as if it's growing out of the pipe. Valued at $80, you're all taking one home. That's what that was all about. Take one home and enjoy.